Alright guys, welcome back to another sinking ship by Acid. The second one he's made. This is the RMS Honorable, and today we'll be taking a look at how this ship looks, the features it has, and of course the way it sinks. So starting with the stern, you'll see there's only a set of lonely benches, about 8 of them in fact, as well as other things you'd find on this ship. And then going through the back of the ship, you could see the Honorable name right on the back there. And of course, looking down, you will see the rudder, which is a giant steel one as you'd expect. Going underneath the waves, we have the propellers, which are a fair size for what this ship is. And if we pull out for a minute, guys, you can see just how massive this ship is. This ship is twice as long as the Royal Pilgrim, twice as wide, and twice as tall. So this is just 2 times across the board, and of course the ship does have a funnel. Going up towards the center of the ship, we can see a set of staircases on each side, and this goes up to the upper deck as well as eventually to the bridge to the front of the ship. But if we go up the stairs and take a right, you'll see that we can go completely down to the other side of the ship. But coming up here to this upper deck, you'll find that there's a lonely room up here. There is many doors, of course, but this is the only one you can enter. And this room, I believe, could be the captain's quarters, or it could be maybe the first class passengers stay here, because these rooms are very luxurious and way better than any other room in the ship, of course. And if we go back to the set of stairs, you'll see that there's another staircase, and this one goes up to a balcony that has a lonely door, but of course, you cannot enter this door. But it's a really cool place to look out over the edge of the ship onto the sea. Coming back down to the main deck, if we were to go towards the left side of the ship, facing the bow, you'll see that we'll come across a door, and this door goes into what I think would be like the main inside of the ship, or like even the lobby, if you will. If you were to come in here, you'll see that this is a very nice area to just relax, maybe even order some things and just get your stuff ready. And this main room is quite massive. It actually spans all the way across towards the bow of the ship, which is pretty awesome. It's a nice area to just relax, but of course there's other things in this room that lead to other rooms that are more interesting, like for instance, to go to the upper or lower floors. In fact, the second you come in, if you were to go down towards the benches, you'll see that there's a staircase that goes down towards the hull of the ship. And taking the staircase down goes to the lower deck, but you'll find that there's another staircase right when you come out. And this goes down to what I believe is where the storage hold is, as well as the third class passengers. And this is very evident by just the way that the rooms look. They're very minimal, I guess you could say. But enough of this, we'll come back to here. We're going to go back up to the main area of the ship. If we go all the way down towards the bow end of the ship, you'll see there's another staircase that goes down to the 2 floors I mentioned earlier. You'll see that as we go towards the bow of the ship, that there's another staircase that goes down to the last 2 floors I just mentioned. But there's another area too that takes you to the upper balcony, like I said previously, but of course this time we're on the bow section of the ship. Going out towards the bow of the ship, we can see the cargo door that opens up to let the cargo into the cargo hold, and it even has windows to peer into what we will eventually get to later in the video. And guys, if it wasn't evident enough, you can see definitely just from the bow here, there is so much more room, tremendously more room in fact, than the Royal Pilgrim. And this almost starts to feel like the Titanic even, because this does mimic those older style ocean liners. And now coming up to the front, you can see the main anchor lying there, which is pretty freaking sweet. And of course we have the bow up here, right up the peak, where if you were to come here, you could mimic your favorite scene from your favorite ship sinking movie. Onto the side, we can see more anchors as well as the ship's name, which is of course the Honorable. So now that we've explored the front and the back and the center of the ship, we can now go up towards this set of stairs up on the upper balcony earlier, and we can come up to the bridge. This is of course where the captain would control the ship, and there's a lot more space here than the last ship, of course. So if you remember that button on the last ship that you press to make the ship sink, well this time it's moved now to the bridge on the center wheel. Clicking this will make the ship start to sink, but of course we have more to look at, so before we do it, let's go take a look at the lower decks. Going down to the lower deck, which I guess you could call the second class. If you were to come towards the back, you could see a nice dining area as well as a bar, and even an area for people to perform. This is definitely the area that people would come towards the end of the night, or maybe even just to hang out and just have a drink. This would probably be one of the most populous places to hang out at. Going down the hall, you can see many twists and turns, of course many edges and even doors, of course leading to the passengers' rooms, which unfortunately are all sealed except for this one. There's one open right here, and you can just see how minimal but not too minimal this room is. This is of course most definitely the second class passengers that would stay here. Coming towards here, we have a fork in the road. The left path takes you over to the upper floor of the storage, and the right path takes you to a staircase that can either lead to the upper deck or even lower to the lower decks. Going through the storage door, you can see this storage is a lot bigger than the last one, of course. There's 2 floors, and there's a ladder that leads to each floor. There's many different things, but of course there's more stuff on the lower deck, so we're going to explore that when we get to it. Going over now to the right side, if we go down to the lower deck, you could just see by how the floor looks that this is definitely the most minimal of minimal, and of course the cheapest ticket, and where a lot of people will be staying. Again, talking about the storage, you'll find the lower part of the storage and the entrance to it towards your right when you come down the staircase. Coming into this massive area, you'll see what I would think is some sort of lift or mechanic to try to get maybe even vehicles down into here, and of course getting boxes down as well. You'll find an array of boxes and storage containers, and there's pretty much nothing else in here except for that. Now, exploring the 3rd class deck, you'll find many doors, but of course none of these are able to be opened. You'll find dirty furniture, dirty floors, things knocked over. This place is honestly somewhat of a mess. And taking down this corner, you'll find that we see our first glimpse of the 3rd class passengers' rooms. And it's very minimal. You got bunk beds, not a whole lot. The sink is in here. They don't even get separate bathrooms. I don't know where you poop. I guess you go off the ship or something, but this is a very minimal room, very minimal area of the ship. And of course, this is where people go when they pay the least amount for their ticket. And unfortunately result in the most casualties out of all of the classes of the ship because of the area that it's located in and the priority they get when the sinking initiation starts. Going down, you'll find this rugged, almost maintenance area, and unfortunately none of these doors do open, but it's a very interesting part of the ship because it's so different from any other part of it, especially even this lower area. But if we were to take a right, you'll find another staircase, and you'll find that this goes back to the 2nd class part of the ship. And guys, that's pretty much it. That is the RMS Honorable. So without further ado, let's let this baby sink. Going back up, we'll click the button, and of course clicking it will immediately start the sinking process. You'll hear a crumbling sound, as well as alarms and sirens, indicating that yes guys, this ship is about to sink, and the way this one sinks as well, it's interesting. Going down to the water line, you'll see the way it starts to sink, and well, we're at the bow here, and you can see it starting to stick up. Why is the bow going up? Well guys, that's because the stern is going to be the one sinking first. This is going to be sinking stern first, and I believe maybe the engine room could have exploded, or maybe something could have happened again, a mine or something. It's quite unusual because what tends to happen is the bow of the ship gets hit, and that goes down first, but this time we have the stern going down, which I think is a really cool twist. But staring at the stern of the ship, guys, you can see, facing towards the bow, that this is starting to sink at an angle, so it's not sinking completely straight up, of course, like we would usually think. It's starting to sink a bit lopsided, which means that the starboard side could have been the one that got hit, which tends to happen a lot. But of course, there is no time to waste. Going back to that strange maintenance area that I mentioned earlier on the lower deck, you'll find that there's already quite a bit of water already flooding in. This is the lowest accessible part of the ship you can get to, and it is definitely starting to show because the water is rising, and in fact, going into that 3rd class room, you can see there's already water starting to seep in. At around 2 minutes and 50 seconds, you can start to see that it's very evident that this is sinking stern first. The water line is very visible on the bow of the ship. Going back down to the 3rd class area, you'll find a massive portion of this is already underwater. This is definitely the area you do not want to be at. In fact, the only area in the 3rd class lower deck that's safe without water is pretty much near the storage area and of course the staircase. Thankfully, the 2nd class and the 1st class won't be touched for quite a while here, but the sinking is rapidly accelerating. We're getting to a point now where this is going to go down extremely fast. Also, interestingly, the alarms eventually stop. But guys, it was only inevitable. At around 4 minutes and 10 seconds, we can start to see that the 2nd class area of the ship is now starting to taste water, and it's starting to instantly go towards the bar area because this is the lowest point towards the stern. And in fact, guys, the honorable name is now underwater. And if you were to take a look, the sinking is again getting quicker. At this point, the maintenance area towards the bottom of the ship in the 3rd class passenger area is completely submerged, absolutely. And if you go towards the 3rd class room, you'll also find that it's almost completely submerged as well with all the furniture floating. And guys, around 5 minutes and 10 seconds, you'll start to hear that rushing water sound. And we all know what that means. The water's coming in quick and it's not going to stop. At this point, you'll find that the stern is now starting to go underwater as well. The water has made it onto the main deck. If you were to go back into the bar area of the 2nd class part of the ship, you'll find that, well, it's almost completely submerged already. Also, practically the entire 3rd class part of the ship is also underwater. Looking from the outside, you guys can just see how insanely massive this ship is, as well as just the devastation that this water is starting to cause. The staircase in the second class area of the ship towards the stern is now completely underwater. The water slowly reaching up towards the hallways. And at this point, there's not even much of the second class deck that's not underwater as well. At this point, we've already far surpassed the Royal Pilgrim sinking time. And at around 7 minutes and 30 seconds, the entire stern of the ship is pretty much underwater. At this point, the bow is sticking straight up in the air, which is just crazy to see. And guys, just like that, the first class room is now going underwater very quick. In fact, I'd say this only stays up here for maybe a minute or so. Around 75% of the third class and second class deck are now completely submerged. And at around 9 minutes, you'll start to hear this eerie, gut-wrenching cranking sound. And then, just like that, bam, the electricity goes out. The ship is now very, very, very dark. And if you want to traverse it at this point, you're going to have to use a flashlight. The creaking and grinding sound does not stop. It continues, and it starts to tilt at a much more dramatic angle. The bow is sticking completely up in the air. It's insane how high this is going up. And guys, at around 10 minutes, the sinking accelerates to unprecedented levels, as well as the creaking and grinding sound continuing. The ship is now going down at a speed that I could never even predict. It is insane how quick this is going down. I'd give the ship maybe another minute before it's completely submerged. At this point, the funnel is already going down. The bow's angle is increasing dramatically even too. And now the funnel is completely underwater. And just like that, the bridge soon follows as well. The only thing not in the water now is the entire bow, which of course won't last long because this thing is going down tremendously quick. At around 11 minutes and 25 seconds, the honorable name starts to touch water, and honestly guys, there's not much left to say. The bow is now completely underwater, and the only thing left is just the tip of the mast, and at 11 minutes and 56 seconds, or roughly 12 minutes, the ship has been completely submerged. It starts to descend to the bottom of the ocean at a fairly quick rate. The ocean this time around is much, much deeper than the previous one as well. And that, my friends, is the end of the RMS Honorable. But of course, we're not done yet. We're going to come back 50 years later, and we're going to see how she does underneath the waves. Alright guys, we're back 50 years later. I haven't aged somehow, I don't know, I'm using this special type of cream. But unfortunately, we do not have the boat we had previously, because I can't even afford that now. I spent all my money on that, so I got this on eBay for like 10 bucks. So as we descend, you'll find that this ship is tremendously deeper than the Royal Pilgrim ever was. In fact, you have to swim quite far down just to get to the ship. You'll notice that the ship is hanging off of a cliff on the bottom of the ocean. The bow is sticking straight over into nothingness, into the deeper parts of the ocean. Going to the stern of the ship, you'll find that the propellers are interestingly intact. But the rudder is crushed, bent, and separated, so it's completely destroyed. Starting at the stern of the ship, you'll find that it's completely dismantled and crushed. Something really bad happened here. Maybe it was the impact, maybe it was the 50 years of deterioration, but this ship is completely dismantled on the back. You'll find the mast completely mangled and torn, destroyed. Pretty much no part of it is even remaining. Going towards the bow of the ship, you'll find that the storage door, where people would put storage in, is completely destroyed. Something broke into it and caved it in, and half the door is completely missing. Interestingly enough though, the main anchor is still here. But going into the lobby area of the ship, this place is unrecognizable completely. There's some interesting soil and grime and dirt on the ground, as well as everything having this algae type look to it. And of course guys, accompanying you will be that grinding and creaking sound you'll hear throughout the ship, which just adds even more of an eerie vibe. But I think it's time that we go into the storage area. Entering here, you'll find a giant part, what seems to be part of the mast, has completely fallen through. And this could have been what broke the door down, as well as a bunch of crates that have been deteriorated and are nothing left but frames. You'll also find that the upper balcony has been completely broken through as well. And interestingly, the second class and third class areas of the ship are completely blocked off and are not accessible. And guys, that about just covers it. The Honorable was a great ship, took her quite a while to sink, but unfortunately, her fate was sealed, and she rests now at the bottom of the ocean. I do hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please leave me a like down below and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Also, thanks to Acid for making these amazing maps. All my links will be down below. I'll stream at the end of this video as well, so I'll see you on Twitch. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, farewell.